Now, violence is a very strong word, but you seem to be suggesting that even in our day-to-day communications within our families or workplaces, we can drop into violent ways of communicating?
One of the basic roots of violence is the fact that we were educated to have judgments about each other. And we were educated into what I call, and what Marshall Rosenberg calls, the culture of blame. So whenever something's not working with me and another person, my habitual way of reacting is to blame the other person, to judge the other person, wanting the other person to be different. And whenever I'm wanting another human being to be different from who they are, I myself am becoming an actor of violence.
So therefore, what you're saying is that the very first step is to start bringing awareness to your habitual ways of communicating when you're with people?
Actually, the word habit or habitual ways of reacting is the starting point, is point of departure in the exploration of nonviolent communication. The awareness of what kind of language have I integrated out of habit so that I can start exploring other ways of creating human relationships which are far more enriching, productive, and what is often called win-win relationships.
You know, I'm thinking about times when I have felt, I'm thinking about times when I've been in a conversation with somebody and I felt lectured to or advised or judged, and I go away feeling awful. So I imagine that that is the definition of somebody being violent to me. But I'm not sure I have so much awareness of when I'm violent to somebody else.
There's always something happening outside my consciousness, which is what I call reality. So the reality is that you or another person are concretely saying or doing something. So a similar example could be that in the middle of our conversation, you stand up and you walk out of the room and you bang the door. That is the reality. But what happens is I've been educated to tell myself a story about that reality. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to imagine that Simran doesn't like me or she's upset with me. The problem with that is if I take that interpretation as the reality, as the truth, which is what many of us do, that creates violence in relationships. The stories are not only about people out there. I create the same stories about myself. So what I produce within myself, and this is where violence starts within myself.
So I'm a bad mother, I'm a bad
Exactly.
daughter, I'm not good enough in
Absolutely.
this area. That
Absolutely.
too is a form of violence?
To me, that's where violence generally starts, is when I start using that same kind of thinking against myself. When I start blaming myself, judging myself, interpreting what I imagine people think about me and things like that. So I love what Marshall Rosenberg says, that non-violence starts within myself.
Cricket Fever on ndtv.com/World Cup and on mobile at m.ndtv.com.